the view from the top of my hotel that I'm staying at right now. And the airport is literally right across the street. Awesome. Awesome. And I kind of feel bad for the people in that plane right now because they're coming into Toronto. These days, the best part of this city is going to that airport, getting on a plane, and flying far, far away. A year and a half ago, I made a video about Toronto, about why I left after 11 years. And that video ended up going pretty viral. 3,500 comments were left on that video, mainly with people saying why they also did not like Toronto anymore. And now, a year and a half later, I think it's time to revisit and see if this city is better, worse, or the same. So, join me as we take a little adventure. I'm taking a bus to get to downtown, and of course, the only thing reliable about the Toronto Transit Commission, the buses and the subways, is that it is unreliable, and it's no exception today. The bus is coming 7 minutes early. Now, if a bus comes 7 minutes early or 7 minutes late, it can still be a problem. Why not just come on time? Why not just come on time? I mean, 7 minutes early for a bus that comes every hour. If you arrive 5 minutes before the scheduled departure, you're gonna miss that. That's a big problem. But it's not a problem in the eyes of Toronto. It's an example of the much bigger issue that Toronto Transit is still so horrendously bad. Yesterday, I was up in Barrie, about an hour and a half north of Toronto, and I booked a train ticket to come down into the city. And lo and behold, the train never showed on Google Maps. It was saying it was scheduled. On the screens they had at the GO station, it was saying it was scheduled, but the train just didn't show. And I'm like, I just spent 11 bucks on absolutely nothing and just literally burned the cash away. Then I'd take a $70 Uber and actually come downtown. And things like this are a part of everyday life here, man. They're annoying. And it hasn't improved. Already, 2 days, 2 problems with the bus. Not to mention how disgustingly dirty it is here, man. It's like, come on, does no one take care of this place? Jesus Christ, man. Well, off to a great start. Look at that. Delayed transportation, dirty garbage everywhere, loud car sounds, the car exhaust smells. I haven't missed it even a little bit, but we are right back home. Hey, how are you? Good, good. Can I pay with this?
You can?
Yeah.
I can't make change, that's all.
I'm aware. Thank you.
Thank you.
Righty, I just made it to Kipling Station. About 2 years ago, there was a lady here who got off the train and got on a bus. Some dude followed her onto that same bus, took out a jar of lighter fluid that he had in his backpack, and he poured it on her, then took a lighter and set her on fire. And unfortunately, she passed away from her injuries. That dude, just a few months ago, was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Think about that for a second. That blows my mind, because I don't for a second believe that guy was insane. I followed that trial very closely, but it's what happens. And this station ever since then has been kind of notorious, Kipling Station, where I'm at right now, for being one of the most dangerous ones in Toronto. And it still kind of remains, and the subway's actually here. Let's get on one. Of course, it's an old one. Alrighty. We're good. There's a distinct smell to these subways, and that smell still exists. But yeah, now whenever people are on the subways, they gotta kind of be on the lookout to make sure nothing dangerous is gonna happen, because, you know, people getting set on fire, it's not a very normal thing still, but people getting stabbed by knives or needles is, which is unfortunate because it's not the way it used to be. Alrighty, we are out of the subway and onto the busy Toronto streets outside. It's been a while since I've been here. These skyscrapers you see, they're everywhere. To go off what I was saying earlier about the city not being safe anymore, it's not that it's an unsafe place to be. By no means is Toronto an unsafe city. It's still a very safe city, especially compared to other big cities. It's very safe. It's very good. But what's become in the last few years is that there has been a huge increase of homeless people in this city. And they have nowhere to go. They have nothing to do. And of course, they sleep on these streets. That's why there is such an increase now in people finding needles everywhere. You see people sleeping in random places. And it's unfortunate because this city could easily build shelters for them. It's not really hard for them to do, but they're not doing it because why would they? They'd rather waste money in other places. Classic. Especially when it comes wintertime in a city like Toronto, in a country like Canada, that's so ridiculously cold. Holy shit, man. They have nowhere to go and they have nothing to do, so of course they turn to drugs, and it's what's gonna get them the highest. The city doesn't do anything. They can be robbing places. It's becoming kind of like how California is. We don't have the same $950 felony law, so you can still be prosecuted if you shoplift, but generally speaking, police aren't going to be chasing those criminals down. Look at that. The pride and joy of the city, the CN Tower. Hey boss, do you take card? Yeah? Okay. Can I get an all beef jumbo hot dog, please? You having a good day today, man?
Not bad.
Let me ask something. How long have you lived in Toronto for?
How long I in Toronto?
Yeah.
Since 75.
Since 75? Wow. You're like a real veteran.
Almost 50 years. Yeah.
What do you think of this city?
I think I enjoyed it better in 75 than now.
Yeah? Why?
It was more quiet, and now it's more fast-paced. Like you have to work more than you used to work then.
Yeah, you got to work a lot more.
A lot more to keep up with the expenses.
What do you think of the increase in crime and homelessness?
Well, the population increased, so everything else will increase. The crime and the homelessness is going to increase. But I'm very sure the government can overnight make the crime issues disappear.
They could, but they're not doing it, right?
No, they're not doing it because it's a lot of business, a lot of money involved in that. Like if they will increase the sentence to assault to 25 years, nobody's going to assault anybody.
No.
You're gonna kill somebody, you're never going to see the street again. You're going to think twice before you kill somebody. But there's so many lawyers in the city. They have to make money, and the lawyers have lots of things to say about everything in the city.
Thank you, boss. Definitely looking like one of the good staples still left in the city are the good hot dogs.
I believe that I have the best hot dogs in the city.
Yeah?
The most expensive and the best hot dogs in the city. I've been told from many customers that they really enjoy the hot dog. So let's see what you're going to think.
All right. What's your name, Terry?
Terry, yeah.
Terry? Well, guys, Terry says he has the best hot dogs in this city. Gentleman here, legend. 50 years.
I've been here 23 years in this corner.
Yeah, 23 years here in this spot, eh?
Really hot dogs.
Legend. I'm gotta give this a good taste test.
Hi, Tony. One of the most elite major crime malls.
Let's see if Terry was right. Oh my God. Dude. It's really hot. That is really good. Terry,
Thank you.
you were right.
I've been eating them for so many years and I still enjoy eating them. I don't eat them because I need to eat them.
You were right, man. These are so good. Really tasty, man. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Yo, best hot dogs in Toronto. There you go, Terry's stand. The legend.
That doesn't
Thank you very much, eh? Thank you. Have a good one. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Yo, real talk. I give that hot dog a 10 out of 10. Man, the meat in it is just so perfectly juicy and tasty and smoky. And the bread is also just complements it so well. If you put ketchup and mayonnaise on a hot dog and it comes out tasting this good, you know you got a real winner on your hands. For $5.50 Canadian, actually a really good deal. Highly recommend Terry's place. Now, what Terry was saying earlier, he clearly knows what he's talking about. He's been here since '75. That's a very long time. He's seen a lot of things, and he's right. He's saying that if people who committed crimes in the city were punished accordingly, crimes wouldn't happen. So there has to be a better policy about that. Now, who's in charge of actually putting forth the laws that put the criminals away? It's the people who work in this building right here. This is Toronto City Hall. One of the most recognizable buildings in all of the city. You got those, you know, crescent looking buildings right there. And the people who make decisions, all the councillors, the mayor, they all work in here. So they are the ones who are single-handedly responsible for destroying this once beautiful city. Now, I lived in 7 cities in my life, and Toronto still ranks as #1 before 2020. Fortunately, it's not that way anymore, and I'm very certain that when I move to Bangkok in 2 days, it's gonna overtake Toronto as the best city that I've ever lived in. And it's sad to see the downfall of this once beautiful place happen so quickly. And they're not tough on crime. If you come here at nighttime to the square, there is a lot of homeless people here just shooting up in front of City Hall. They don't care because there's no accountability for what they do, for the crimes they commit. So of course, they're gonna keep doing it. Everyone's waiting their turn to get their photo next to the sign. Cool, bro. It's actually cool to see people being so happy here. It's something I'm not really used to seeing anymore in this city. It's nice. Everyone's enjoying themselves on this nice sunny day. It's gonna get cold in about a month's time. Speaking of, you see all those tall buildings right there? Well, many of them are residential units. And well, it just so happens that when I made the video a year and a half ago, the rent actually has stayed pretty much the same since then. Not much of a difference. And it's still around $2,700 a month for unit rental. And it probably is gonna stay that way for another year just because inflation right now has stopped. But again, you're paying 2,700 Canadian dollars for a friggin' shoebox sized apartment. And no amenities whatsoever most of the time. If you're lucky, you get amenities. And if you're lucky, they don't charge you extra. Oh, if you want to park a car, you're paying maybe $250, $300 a month extra for a parking spot. Have fun with that. Oh, some quick jaywalking action. Seem to be jaywalking in every video these days. And let me tell you a little bit about the people who live in this city, the Torontonians. For the most part, Torontonians are generally good people. They're very hardworking, depending on if you find one who's blue collar or white collar. They are just people trying to make an honest living and trying to live their best life. Of course, their best life usually looks something like they want to go see their friends on a weekend, they want to go drinking and just go to work and repeat that process for the next 40 years. But they're not bad people. It's just that they can't help but stop electing complete idiots to run their city. And those idiots, of course, drive it straight to the ground. Like, whoo, they're experts at doing that. For the most part, they can't really be bothered with doing anything about the politics or about the people in charge. They just want to be left alone. And I wish they would elect better people to lead them, because those people single-handedly ruined their lives and made everything so much more expensive for them, that unless you make like a lot of money, I'm talking maybe $7,000 to $8,000 a month, it's very hard for you to live comfortably in a city like downtown Toronto. You might live outside of Toronto, but you're still gonna be paying a lot of money, and then you gotta also commute to come here, and that's in itself. I was talking earlier about how bad the public transport is in Toronto. You gotta take that daily, and that's not something you wanna be doing. So I just wish they would elect better people to lead them. And until then, I'm not gonna be a part of it. One more very, very, very important point I gotta make. Torontonians love to compare themselves to New York. They say, oh my God, we're so much like New York. We're the New York of Canada. I don't want anyone ever in the future to compare a beautiful city like New York to this village like Toronto. I mean, Toronto is a glamorized village in the eyes of New York because, you know, New York's the capital of the world. You can do anything you want there. There, it's actually worth it to pay $4,000 or $5,000 for a one-bedroom apartment because of how dope the city is. You can go do anything you want to do at any time of the day or at nighttime, and you will always find adventure to get into. You'll see all kinds of interesting people. People are always fighting to stay in New York. It isn't like that in Toronto. Toronto is still very, very new, and for the most part, there isn't a lot of life here. That's just a sad reality. For fun, what a lot of people will do is they will go to restaurants, they will go to bars, they might smoke up, they'll do a lot of drugs. Oh yeah, drug use is very, very rampant in this city, even by the residents, and that's about it. That's really about it. That's how most people spend their weeks. They might see their friends once a week, twice a week if they have a lot of time. Other than that, there really isn't much else to do here. It's not a very resident-friendly city. The tourists who come here, yeah, you go to the CN Tower, you might see the Scotiabank Arena, and there really isn't much else to do here, unfortunately. Winter comes, everything shuts down anyway. So for the 4 to 5 months of summer that this city does have, this is as good as it gets right here. What you're seeing, people taking photos next to the Toronto sign, walking outside, enjoying themselves. This is probably, yeah, right here. Welcome to the Toronto Nirvana. This is it right here, what you're seeing around me. Yeah, so much fun, right? Not gonna lie though, Toronto skyscrapers are undeniably beautiful. It's unfortunate, it's all part of an illusion. So I've had a lot of nicknames for this city in the past. You know, there was Shit-Rono, Dogwater Town, the world's saddest mega city. Well, mega cities being generous, but yeah, the world's saddest big city. And the new one that I have is New Delhi. The reason I say that is because in the last maybe 4 to 5 years, there has been an absolute explosion in the number of Indian immigrants who live here. And there's a reason for that, because when you look at how immigration in this country really works, they are going after that demographic on purpose. Because the Indian people who come here, they are also victims of the Canadian and Indian governments. So the way the Canadian government works is there's 3 levels. There's a federal level, which is the country of Canada. There is the provincial, which is the state, like Ontario, Quebec. And then there is municipal, which is the cities like Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg. What happens is the federal government, they say, you know what? We're gonna set new records in immigration. We're gonna bring in all the immigrants we can, and we need them to keep our economy going. But then the municipalities say, we don't want them here. We don't want you bringing all these new people into this city. So what they will do is, And because the municipalities are in charge of all the construction, all the building of housing, apartments, what they will do is they will make it incredibly hard to get building permits, sometimes taking 5 to 10 years just to go through the process of getting a permit. It's incredibly expensive also. What that does, of course, is it slows the building of actual units. And that's just the 5-10 years is getting a permit. There's also the building process, which also takes a long time because in Canada, you know, construction is one of our new pastimes here. A lot of the construction companies are unionized, so you'll see construction sites most of the time with very few workers on them, and they're not really doing anything. They're just kind of killing time because the longer they take, the more money they can get from the government for the project they're working on. And the government doesn't say, yo, build this thing quickly, let's go. They don't say that. So what happens when you do that, when you have housing taking an crazy amount of time to build, the value of the houses that are here, they go up. And of course, the city benefits tremendously from that because now they're making more money from tax dollars, but the people who are actually living here are getting very hurt by it, which is why our rentals have jumped by, in some cases, 200% in the last 6 to 7 years, which is ridiculous. So people can't actually afford to pay rent anymore, or they're paying all their income to rent and not able to afford food. It's a very common problem now in the city, and it's very unfortunate because it's a lack of the governments of Canada refusing to work together. So what I was saying, how this relates back to the Indian immigrants coming to Canada is because Canada knows that they are the easiest people to victimize in terms of a bureaucratic level. What they will do is, there is a lot of Indian recruiters, immigration recruiters in India, who will find people who want to move to Canada, and they will lie to them and say it's very easy to get your permanent residence, it's very easy to find a job here, all you gotta do is pay me a lot of money and I'll help you. And they do that. But then what happens is when they arrive here, they realize what the reality of the situation is far too late. They're having to live in a house, in a 1-bedroom apartment with 4 to 5 other people working in a Tim Hortons or another low minimum wage job. And they've been lied to tremendously and they can't make it work. There's no way they can make it work because it's so expensive. All the money they make, they're spending it on their bills. So eventually, most of the time, in a year's time, they go back home. But it doesn't matter because India is the most populated country in the world. There's a lot of other Indians who would love to have an upgraded life and come to Canada. So there's a new fresh blood waiting to come here. But then they come here as well and they also get duped. So it's this vicious duping cycle, and Canada has turned the other cheek for a long time on this. They know they need the immigrants to come here because that's how the ship keeps going. It's how the economy keeps pumping. If they didn't have that, well, what would happen then is they would have to increase the wages. But right now, because of the immigration scam going on, they're not increasing the wages and everybody is struggling to get by. So no one is happy about this except for the government. One of the worst things that honestly to this day still disgusts the crap out of me is seeing how badly international students are treated. Because again, also the majority of international students in Canada are from India. And when I was an international student in 2013, I was paying $17,000 per year in tuition. Now that number is closer to $40,000 per year for an international student only 11 years later. If you go to U of T, like the University of Toronto, it's $60,000 per year in tuition. And of course, a lot of the students who come here, well, they're coming here hoping that they can work and make enough money to be able to afford their tuition later, only to find out that it's absolutely impossible to make $40,000 to $60,000 while being a student and working a part-time job. No way that's gonna happen. So of course, they go back home after a year But like I was saying before, the fresh blood is waiting to come into the country. And the universities are profiting crazy amounts from this. That's why last year, the government finally was like, okay, we're gonna stop this puppy mill university organization. Oh, and just to make it even more interesting, the provincial government now gets their hands dirty in the process too. Because what they will do is they will approve colleges to open in the province. But these colleges are nothing more than diploma mills where students will come, they will pay a lot of money, and most of the time they won't even speak any English. They will come and they will get a degree from a Ontario accredited institution, but they don't actually know anything about what they studied. Their classes were 95% immigrants who were from India, and they're nothing more than victims. It's very sad to see. And unfortunately, it's still not changing. They passed laws to change it, but they're not being enforced. So the problems remain. I'm not at all trying to be disrespectful to any Indian people, but when you have so many of your new immigrants coming from a single country, you are completely destroying your country's diversity, because it's not diverse anymore by definition. And Canada, in all its glory, is the most diverse country in the world. We have people from all over the world, and unfortunately that's changing because the current government is insisting on bringing more than half of their immigrants on a yearly basis. They make them from India, and it's sad to see because now everybody else is becoming minorities. Yeah, that's just the reality of it now. And best case scenario, let's say you're one of those new immigrants who come to Canada. What'll happen is, best case scenario, you find an apartment to rent, you find a job, you work like an absolute dog, and maybe in 20 years time, you're able to afford a down payment on an apartment. But by then the world has changed. That's the best case scenario most of the time. It's part of the reason I'm leaving Canada. It's also part of the reason that many of the people I know, I'm talking 90% of the people I know, are making plans to leave Canada or have already left Canada. Because this country is not the same as it used to be. This is not a very business-friendly country. They support people joining the workforce and paying a lot of taxes. And even if you're someone who's able to have a successful business here, you're gonna be paying a lot more in taxes, because last year, what they did is they increased the amount of taxes that the richest people have to pay. So let's say you got a very successful business, you employ a lot of people, you provide opportunity for a lot of others. Well, your reward is that you get to pay 67% of your income in taxes. Yeah, that's what the country thinks of you and your sacrifices, by punishing you and taking more money out of your pocket. Right now I'm standing in front of Scotiabank Arena, which is the home of the Toronto Raptors and also the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, one of those teams, the Toronto Raptors, I got all the respect for in the world, for their members and their organization. Masai Ujiri, legend of a human being. They got the city of Toronto a title that we so desperately needed. 2019, that was the peak of Toronto. That was the best time to be here. In terms of the other team that plays here, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they are the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL, but they're even worse than that, because every year, all they do is get your hopes up, only to completely rip them apart in the most dramatic fashion. I hate it. It really, really, really annoyed me. I became a fan of the Maple Leafs in 2012 when I first moved here. And since then, all they've done is disappoint, and disappoint some more. That's it. That's all they know how to do. They love serving disappointment platters to their fans. And every year it's the same fucking thing. Just they do well in the regular season, and then they completely, in a very catastrophic fashion, flame out in the first round of the playoffs. Horrible. It's a disrespectful to those legends whose statues are built in front of the stadium. It's also why I became a Montreal Canadiens fan when I moved to Montreal, because they're actually a successful organization. They care about their fans, and they don't charge their fans $350 to $400 for simple tickets like the Leafs organization does. I got a friend. This guy, he's been a fan of the Maple Leafs since he's been a little boy. And every year he cries at the end of the season because of how bad it is. He knows it's gonna end badly, yet he has hope that they're gonna do better this time, but they never do. They keep disappointing and they keep disappointing, and they keep repeating the same thing over and over again with the same players, the same core, changing very little, and then they're surprised when things don't go their way. It's almost like the Maple Leafs have taken on the identity of the city itself, just delivering disappointment to their residents and their fans, and overcharging everywhere they can, yet still nothing actually gets done and nothing happens. Even though they're one of the richest organizations in all of hockey, they deliver nothing but pure sadness and agony for the people who support them. It's my sincere hope that the Maple Leafs never win another Stanley Cup. The last time they won it was in '67. I hope they never win another one. And to be honest, I don't think they will with the way they're playing right now. They gotta sell the team to new owners and just overhaul everything. Because the people in charge right now, they're absolutely stupid. Get them out of here. In terms of what the future of this city looks like, really not that good. I'm leaving the country now, not just the city. I'm going to Thailand in 2 days, and I am hoping that when I come back here, it's gonna be a better place. But right now, man, it is a sinking ship, and the saddest part, it looks like an absolutely amazing city from the outside. You got giant skyscrapers, you got big roads, you got big monuments, but then you get into it, it's nothing but pure sadness. And I hope that they get this rental under control. I hope they fix the crime issue, the homeless problem, and I hope they get the immigration under check, because right now there's only 3 big cities in Canada. Most new immigrants who come here, they come to Toronto because one of them is Montreal. They can't really go there unless they speak French and English. So they come to the biggest one, Toronto, instead of Vancouver, because as bad as Toronto is, it's still better than Vancouver. It's my sincere hope that we get some new people in charge and they fix all the shit that's wrong with this place. I don't know why this city keeps electing really, really weird people as their mayors. Like the mayor that was here before, you know, he cheated on his wife of 40+ years during the pandemic. Like, he just decided he needed some poom 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 action with somebody else. The guy before him, he had a big time coke scandal. So both those guys, when they did those things, there was a lot of attention about that in the media. This new person, Olivia Chow, well, she has not had any scandals as of yet. She wanted to introduce a rain tax. Good thing that got shot down very quickly, but we will see what happens. And I don't think I'm gonna come back here, in my opinion, at least the next year, maybe even longer. I hope they fix it, because this place was an amazing place to be in the mid-2010s, even before that, and it went to zero with a bullet. It hurts my heart, man. It's sad. Anyway, that's gonna be it for today, guys. Thank you for joining, and let me know in the comments, the Torontonians here who live here, let me know in the comments what you think of this city and what it's become lately. I'm curious to know your opinions. But that's gonna be it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out.